I ask you so often, like, is there anything we need to talk about? Is there anything? You'd be like, no, 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 to the point you were like, look, if there is anything, I will tell you. You never told me until the day you ended our marriage.
Can I go back to that day?
Communication and compromise.
Yes.
Yeah, I do struggle with communication, but also the other half is I just don't think I'm compatible in a long-term relationship.
You married me.
That's
That
right.
is
No,
a long-term commitment. That's a legal commitment,
Yeah.
and that is you committing your life to someone else jointly. I just wish you didn't take me down that long journey.
That's
That
fair.
was always going to end.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Stephanie Yates Anya, Steph Anya for short, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I'm going to be breaking down what we saw unfold between Sarover and Kal on Love is Blind UK Season 2. If you're curious, stay tuned. Before we get into the video, I want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, which is Bellesa, a woman-owned company with the aim to address sexual wellness. Did you know that only 18 to 27% of women orgasm vaginally? Majority of women need clitoral stimulation to orgasm. Bellesa has many toys on the market that can help with this goal and can enhance your sex life. What I find when I'm working with my couples is that often that element or aspect of sexual satisfaction is not focused on enough. This is when I typically encourage my couples to consider sex toys. This can be a bit of a taboo topic because I do see that for a lot of my couples, they feel like using sex toys is a replacement of their partner, but think of it more as an enhancement. For example, Bellesa has the Rose on the market, which a lot of us are familiar with. It is a viral toy that has 10 speeds and is shaped like an actual rose. This is both a suction and a vibration tool. Another option would be something like the Air Vibe, which has dual stimulation for both your G-spot and suction for your clitoris. And as you can see, it comes in a very discreet, cute case if you want to take it for traveling, for example. I appreciate Bellesa for giving a very fantastic offer of offering a free rose to anyone who makes an order at the link in my description box. You'll get a free rose that you can either use for yourself or maybe gift to a friend. If you have a friend who's in the market for getting more toys, definitely let them know about this portion of the video. And now let's get back into the video. Now remember, you guys, there will be spoilers. If you haven't seen all the way until the reunion, you definitely want to finish before watching this video if you care. And also please know, I don't know any of these people. Everything that I'm talking about is based on an edited show, which means that what we see is very limited. We're only seeing such a small snapshot into these people's days, into their interactions and conversations. But I'll be talking specifically about what we've seen, as well as my speculations as to why they are no longer together. Okay, so when we first meet Kal and Sarover, some of the things that really stood out to me in their pod dates is the similarities and the parallels in their family background. Both of them talk about having parents who were divorced around 18.
My mum and dad divorced when I was around 18. I think it was my first year at uni.
Exactly the same time as me.
Yeah, that's mad.
This seemed to be very, very impactful for Sarover particularly. She talked about how her Christmas and holiday experiences drastically changed once her parents were no longer together.
It's me, my mum, my dad, my sisters. We're playing our board game. Just us all being together, like that family unit. Haven't had that obviously after they divorced. Oh God.
So typically what I see when I have clients who are coming into a relationship or a marriage and they've had parents who split, especially when their parents split after a point where it feels like their relationship is very secure from the kids' point of view, they are very, very aware of the pitfalls of relationships. They're very heightened. What I do see is that sometimes they can become quite guarded, because what happens sometimes when parents split up is that the kid is now placed into not just one, but two unfamiliar environments. You might still be in your childhood home with one parent, but having that one parent there is a new experience. And I see a lot of times people making themselves as small as possible or as easy to deal with as possible so as not to be a burden on either parent. Now, Sarover was at an age where I doubt that she thought it was her fault, but I wouldn't be surprised if she still felt that she needed to get certain accomplishments, achieve certain things to help keep her family in a stable and non-conflictual space. Because when you do have parents who are no longer together, when do they come together? They come together for graduations, they come together for ceremonies, they come together for weddings, right? We saw both of her parents at her wedding. These are the things that the parents come together for. So when you have someone who is experiencing the transition of their parents from being married and stable to no longer together, it can be traumatic, even if it's change that feels trivial, like a change in the experience with the holidays. Holidays bring people together, and then now the only thing that's bringing her family together are her achievements and milestones, which puts into perspective why she has made it so that she focuses on making her family proud. Do you see that connection?
I always did have it in my head that I need to make everybody proud. I have to make my parents proud. I have to make my grandparents proud.
The other big notable thing that we see with Kal and Sarover is their difference in backgrounds. Sarover is Indian and Kal is half Pakistani. Historically, these two people would not be getting married.
Historically, there's been conflict and a massive divide between India and Pakistan 10, 15 years ago. Me and her probably wouldn't even be having a conversation.
You could see Sarover kind of struggling with that, even though she was saying that she would go forward. She even kind of sarcastically says, what, are we just gonna solve history together?
Are we just gonna sort of solve history?
Where Kal was a little bit more optimistic about it. Kal already comes from a family that bridged two different cultures. So I imagine that for him, this is a little bit more natural of a decision than it would be for Sarover, but she does decide to move forward with Kal. Even though she's very nervous about how he'll be received by her family, she makes the sacrifice to focus on herself instead of being so focused on what her family wants for her. We see that they have a run-of-the-mill proposal.
Coming into this, I was skeptical whether love could be blind for me, but I wanted to come give it a go anyway. The unfathomable happened, the unthinkable. Fell for somebody I would never even laid eyes on. There is something that I would like to ask you. Will you join me on this insanely crazy, beautiful roller coaster we call life and marry me?
I will.
With their reveal, the interesting thing is that Kal happened to bring Indian attire for his proposal.
I brought this outfit for obviously Pakistani Indian style wedding attire, and the fact that I proposed to the Indian girl I feel like it's just another tick of that it was meant to be.
You know, a lot of people looked at that as fate, and a lot of people were rooting for them just because we like to see people breaking that societal expectation. Younger generations typically prioritize rebelling against the expectations of the generations before them. So to see that storyline, that's something that a lot of people are going to root for, regardless of what is happening with the couple theirself. Now, for me, from the beginning, even in the pods, I really questioned how open they were being with each other. They were talking about their families. They were talking about their upbringing. So it's not that the conversations were shallow, but the actual emotional vulnerability, I wasn't really picking up on it. And not to say that you have to be crying or anything, but there are things that, especially on Kal's side, I felt he was being extremely guarded. For example, while Kal did share about his brother's trauma histories, we really didn't learn much about things that have impacted him.
At points in my life, I've nearly lost both my brothers. My oldest brother, he was in the Royal Marines. One day we just got a phone call saying he'd been shot. Luckily, he was okay. And then my other brother had a drinking substance addiction for most of his adult life. Got himself clean and but found his wife and got married and has completely turned his life around. And I've never had anything like that. I feel like I'm lucky.
They came out of the pods and I really just didn't know how well I knew him. I didn't know how well I got a read on him, and I was just hoping that a lot of their conversations have been edited out and that Sarover had a better read on him. When they get to Cyprus, they talk about their types, and Sarover does tell Kal, you are exactly my type. You're a pretty boy. This is what I usually go for.
Honestly, you are definitely what I imagined, but actually better, which is surprising. I would definitely say you're my usual type.
Whereas Kal does tell Sarover, you're not my type. I typically go for blonde women.
You're not my usual type. I've always been with white British girls before. Blonde hair, light eyes. Opposites never worked. Yeah, I'm glad you wasn't my type.
Which makes sense. I mean, his mother is a blonde woman. These are the type of women that he was raised around. I thought that Sarover was very honest about some of her insecurities, and I really liked seeing that Kal picked up on the fact that Sarover might be feeling insecure.
That would have been my type before this process. So to be with Sarover, who's not my type, it is a little bit strange, but I think it's maybe worse for her than it is for me. I don't feel any awkwardness, and I just don't want her to feel like there is anything else there.
And he validated her. He even said,
I've only dated white British in the past, but we're here on this experiment for a reason. It's because we haven't found love yet, and if you like someone, you like someone. It doesn't matter where they're from, what colour their skin is. If you love that person, then types don't exist.
And again, I think this is a moment where they really won over the audience. A lot of people have commented, you know, Kal and Sarover, I didn't see that coming. That's why I want you to talk about them. For me, I'll be honest, I never ever fully bought into their relationship, only because, as I said, I was waiting for us to see more opening up on Kal's end. And for me, I just felt like I was not getting enough to understand the type of person that we're dealing with. I would say the most emotional that we saw Kal get was his defense of Damola when it came to Katisha. You know, he would come to her, he's like, I want to talk to her. He told Sarover he wants to talk to her. Then he goes and talks to Katisha, and she's like feeling the tension. And
obviously he's a strong guy and all that. He'll obviously be fine. And
but it wasn't anything against him,
dust
though.
himself off kind of thing. And
yeah.
pick himself up.
But it wasn't anything against him.
Yeah.
She's kind of like, you know, is that a satisfying enough answer for you?
So, yeah, that's just what it came down to. I definitely made the right choice. Happy with that, or?
Really trying to understand, why is he so passionate about this? For me, that was the most passionate I saw Kal throughout the entire season. Seeing that he was actually really frustrated. You know, every other time, even when people would say something I would consider to be insulting to him, he was very, very stoic in response, and I just very rarely saw any sort of emotional response. In Cyprus, Sarover does tell us that historically she's been very guarded.
Such a guarded person, so guarded, to the point like I've had comments before, it's like, I don't know where I stand with you, or I don't know where your head's at. Then I bring things up and I feel like you almost self-sabotage.
What I find with couples is that when you have someone who is already pretty guarded, and this actually kind of leans into what I talked about in the Katisha and Javin video, when you are already guarded, it is hard for you sometimes to recognize that another person may be being more guarded than you or on the same level with you, because there's almost a discomfort with a certain level of vulnerability. If that person is not asking you to step outside of your comfort zone and share what's happening with your feelings because they're also not doing the same, that can actually give this illusion of comfort and peace because we're just not ruffling any feathers. Kal even tells her,
I thought the apartment stage would be the toughest for me, and it's actually been the easiest.
Really?
I've never lived with a girl before, and in the past, whenever I'd spent too much time with a girl in their company, I didn't enjoy it. Like, I would genuinely feel uncomfortable, but I've genuinely never had that once with you.
Do you know how amazing that is for me to hear? Because
Yeah.
I didn't know that was even a thought for you.
I did not expect it to be so easy. I don't get tired of you. And these are comforting words to hear. But at the end of the day, because neither one of you is ruffling feathers, it's really easy to just think that everything's going great in your relationship because there is no conflict. And when couples come to me and they say, we just don't argue, we're just here for preventive measures, you know, that could be the case, but more often than not, it's because you have two people who are conflict avoidant and they're really not talking about things that could lead to issues. So that's why they're not arguing, right? And then we end up with surprising outcomes because we're not talking about the issues that matter. Now, meeting Kal's family is where my perspective on him was solidified. I said, okay, the things that I've been picking up on are definitely being validated through what his family is saying. The first thing that really caught my attention is that his mother, in her confessional, she tells them that Kal has never talked about wanting to be married.
Kal's never really expressed wanting to get married.
So think about that. Your own family is saying, I've never even heard you talk about wanting to be married. So why would you, of all people, go through such an extreme measure to become married? I've said this before, my belief about shows like Love is Blind, Married at First Sight, if you're on those kind of shows, right, it's different from a show like Love Island where people are like having fun, right? Like you might end up meeting somebody you love, but for the most part, we're just making out. Shows like Love is Blind, Married at First Sight, where you're taking these drastic measures to finally find someone to settle down with, you should only be there when you've tried everything else and it has not worked. You're at a point where you know the method that you've taken for dating is ineffective, but you know for a fact that one thing you're definitely ready to do is move forward with the marriage. That should be the reason why you're on a show like this. For Kal's family to have never even heard him say that he wants to be married, that to me was a red flag that let me know that maybe Kal was not ready for this level of intensity, because how do we even know that this is something that he genuinely wanted in his life in the first place? And Kal's brother, kudos to him. This man is so truthful and honest.
Brother to brother, would you actually marry her? Go all the way? Because I don't think you would, me, to be fair.
My question with him though, and with Kal's family, is why a lot of these things weren't said to Sarover. And I do understand family loyalty. I know that you don't want to be talking crap about your family member to a stranger, but we're talking about marriage here. And if you have insight when you know this person has gone through a very expedited process that might help them understand more about this person that you know a lot better, I think that is the courteous thing to do. We have seen people before let the people know, like, hey, do you know this about this person? That is super important. If you are a support for your person that you love, you should also not want them to rush a decision and to only show a part of their self to their partner. His brother says to him,
do you think you could put her fully first? I think she could put you first, but I think you'd struggle with that aspect.
Yeah.
I've never seen you put anyone first. You always put yourself first. And what was interesting to me about that is Kal didn't even seem offended by that. That to him just sounded like the truth. Like, that's a good point. I don't put anybody before myself. That's something I should work on.
That's a good point, and I've probably not even thought of that till now.
Definitely.
Like, people might look at it as, wow, he's great at taking criticism. I think he just didn't see a problem with it. I think he's like, oh, that makes sense. You know, you should put another person first if you're going to marry them. Okay, I'll work on that. And so I was like, okay, this makes sense. I also thought that it was interesting when Kal made a comment. Somebody asked,
so have you got any concerns about Sarover saying no or anything?
Love is blind, but she's not.
And it was a funny joke, but at the same time, it did show a certain level of confidence he had about his looks that really could read as arrogance. And it did concern me that Kal may see himself more as the prize than Sarover. And in relationships like that, where one person views themselves as being superior in one way or another, a lot of times they do expect that other person to put more work in, or they think that it is okay to put their needs above that other person. And then his brother says,
I know what Kal's like. He's difficult to please. He very much loves his own space and he's very routine, and if anything breaks that routine, i.e. a relationship or a girl, which they do, because it very much just transforms your life and the way you live, it can adversely affect him, and he'll just be like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of this, let's be done.
That Kal is difficult to please and that he typically leaves when things get inconvenient. What more did we really need to hear that this relationship may be doomed? His brother said that if his life depended on it, he would say that this relationship is not going to work.
If my life was on it, I'd say no.
And in the reunion, he still stood on business and said that he stands by that opinion. And he says that Sarover is brilliant, that all the problems were of Kal's doing.
And Sarover, she is a brilliant girl. And if it isn't going to work with her, I don't think it will work with anyone else. And it's really down to him as a person.
And again, Kal did not even seem affected by his brother saying that. Only time I've seen Kal get riled up was at the reunion with talking with Sarover and her mother, and I will talk about that. But when his brother says these things to him, he is just very unaffected. And it makes me question, does he even think these are flaws? And does he have the self-awareness to actually trust his brother, or does he just view him as he's just talking? Those were the things that made me think, okay, I don't think Kal's gonna say yes at the altar. And I'll be honest, I was actually hoping that he wouldn't. By that point, I'm like, okay, everything I've been thinking about Kal at this point, the fact that he's over-invested in other people's issues and not focusing on his relationship, I felt like he was not really opening up. We weren't really seeing a lot of vulnerability. These were the things that really started making me question how ready he was for a process like this. And then what really cemented it for me was when Kal met Sarover's family. There was a lot of buildup around how Sarover's mother would respond to him. She'd been sending paragraphs and paragraphs to Sarover about her concerns about this situation, how disappointed she is.
Just got some messages from my mum this morning. I think she's struggling to understand us in terms of being in an experiment like this.
Which was triggering for Sarover as a person who has been a people pleaser, specifically when it comes to her family. This was very hard for her to hear. And when Kal finally meets her mother and she asks a simple question, Why Sarover?
What's so different and unique about Sarover that made you choose my daughter?
You had to expect that, right? Kal says,
I've never dated a Southern girl before, and I'm going to be honest, I like the posh Southern accent. We're quite similar, but obviously both into fitness.
that it's because of her posh accent and the fact that they both like to go to the gym. The fact that he said, I'm happy to answer anything, and that was his response. For me, if I was her mother, I would be like, I don't care what you say after this. This is enough for me to think that you really don't know my daughter that well, or you're not that interested. When Sarover was asked about why she wanted to marry Kal, she gave his family a substantive answer.
He was talking about things, listening to me. I felt so sort of heard and seen, and he was literally behind a wall the whole time.
Sarover didn't seem to be too affected by the fact that Kal was saying such superficial things in regards to why he chose her. And he did fix it up later. You know, they're having conversations, getting a little bit more comfortable, and he talks about their companionship and the comfort they have with one another.
I think we're quite similar, to be honest.
Oh, 100%.
It's both like our own space, but enjoy each other's company as well, and close with family. I felt like I'd spoken about things with you that I'd never spoken out of anyone previously before. So easy to be around.
And their compatibility. But looking at my notes that I was writing as I was watching it, I was like, but there's still something missing with him. I do not see him being open and vulnerable. I think he had a guard up the whole time. And because Sarover is so accustomed to being guarded, she really didn't pick up on it. And then they had their wedding, and Sarover's dad is there to walk her down the aisle. Her mother is there smiling. She'd already given her approval and blessing. The way that Kal was carrying himself, so stoic, I thought that he was going to say no and that he was just here for an experience. So I genuinely was shocked when he said yes. I could not believe he said yes. I thought Sarover might say yes, but I did not think that Kal would, because he just didn't seem ready. And at that point, I thought to myself, wow, I've been misreading the situation the whole time. Maybe he really is in love with her. Then we get to the reunion, and Sarover, who had been documenting their marriage, says that they had only been married for 3 months, and then Kal coldly ended things. And that's why I say we have such limited view into what's actually happening, because the thoughts that he's having in his head will never really translate if he's not saying them aloud. And so I could only go based off of a feeling. But once they got to the reunion, said they weren't together, for me, I was not surprised at all. I was a lot more surprised that they said yes at the altar. I think that people got so caught up in the story of you have these two people from two different cultures who are fighting against those expectations and norms. We really buy into that. And that's why I always tell you all to be so careful about how much you invest in something simply because it aligns with your preferred narrative. We have these things like West Side Story, different things where you have people coming from very different backgrounds where they shouldn't be together and they get together, and we eat that up because it's a tale as old as time. But just because it's a narrative that we like, you still need to pay attention to the specifics of the individuals who are part of that dynamic, especially if it's you. I can't just think about the story I'm going to tell my grandkids one day. I've got to think about the person that's right across from me right now. And sometimes we get just way too stuck on that ideal narrative that we're not focusing on the story that's being written out right in front of us. And I thought it was so interesting when Kal actually says to Sarover,
You've seen the episodes. You can't tell me that wasn't real. You can't fake that.
And I'm thinking, fake what? There was no moment where I thought that he was really melting into her, really opening up. The fact that he thinks the show captured that, again, makes me think that Kal lacks a certain self-awareness that would be necessary to be successful in a long-term relationship. And he does say, you know, I think I just realized I just can't be in a long-term relationship. And I really do hate the fact that Sarover had to be a part of that narrative just for him to learn that lesson, because my guess is that he's probably going to get into another relationship and probably do the same thing over again, because in a situation like this, I rarely see, unfortunately, without a lot of introspection and humility, I don't see a person making a lot of different choices. And to me, the way that he was speaking to Sarover's mother, the way that he was responding to Sarover, to me did not show humility. It showed a lack of respect, and it showed a lot of frustration and annoyance with them for sharing their perspectives on what the problem was. Now, of course, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that that Sarover was visibly angry. She was very frustrated about what happened and how their story unfolded. It's embarrassing, it's hurtful, and she felt like she'd been cheated out of the experience and out of the opportunity of a marriage with him, or the opportunity to even work on whatever issues that he was saying existed within the relationship. She was angry, and that's understandable, and he was responding to that anger. But I think if you know that you're the person who ended it, you know that you two have not been really communicating, allowing this person the opportunity to share their story, and then saying, what I'm hearing you say is that you feel blindsided by me, you are frustrated with the tone of how I ended things. Do you mind if I share a little bit about my perspective? But to cut people off, to get short, to stonewall, these things do not lead to a productive conversation. And again, this is probably one of those situations where Sarover and us saw the most passion out of Kal. I've never seen him this passionate in a positive light, this passionate in an excited, in love way. He mostly came off very stoic to me. That's my perspective. And I think that the only times we've ever seen him really show emotion is when he's angry or frustrated. That is my view on Sarover and Kal. I was not surprised that they were not together. And if you watch my videos, you know I tell y'all the truth when I don't see something coming, and I'm shocked. For me, I was more shocked they said I do. It made more sense to me to find out that not very long after the cameras cut were they no longer together. Those are my thoughts on Sarover and Kal. Were you shocked when they ended things? No judgment if so, because I could have totally been wrong myself. I'd like to get a conversation going in the comments about what you all saw, and if you were surprised when they said I do, or if you were surprised when they broke up. I ask that you subscribe to my channel, like this video, share this video with anyone else that's a Love is Blind fan or might find this educational. And thanks again to Balesa for offering a free rose toy with your order to anyone who signs up at the link in my description box. I appreciate you for watching this video all the way until the end. You didn't have to, but the fact that you did helps me out so much. So thank you, thank you, thank you.